Chris dead after a gunman carrying a rifle and handgun killed 4 people at a Tulsa hospital and then himself, according to police. Here's Tulsa's Deputy Chief of Police, Eric Dagnes.
The officers that did arrive were hearing shots in the building, and that's what directed them to the second floor. Right now, we have 4 civilians that are dead. We have 1 shooter that is dead, and right now, we believe that is self-inflicted. Officers have not been interviewed, but we're certain that's a self-inflicted gunshot wound on his part.
Wednesday's shooting on the campus of St. Francis Health System was the latest in a series of deadly mass shootings across the U.S. in recent weeks. The recent Memorial Day weekend saw multiple mass shootings nationwide, including at an outdoor festival in Taft, Oklahoma, 45 miles from Tulsa. The Gun Violence Archives reports 233 mass shootings this year. It's the 12th mass murder this year. The white man accused of killing 10 black people in a racist attack on a Buffalo supermarket that he live-streamed has been indicted by a grand jury on a state domestic terrorism and hate crime charge that would carry a mandatory sentence of life in prison. 18-year-old Peyton Grendon, who has been in custody since the May 14th mass shooting, is scheduled to be arraigned today in Erie County Court. Gendron had previously been charged with first-degree murder in the shooting, which also injured 3 people. He has pled not guilty. House Speaker San Francisco Democrat Nancy Pelosi says the Judiciary Committee will be considering sweeping gun control legislation today. She spoke at a gun control rally in her district, marking the first day of Gun Violence Awareness Month Wednesday.
Raise the age to buy weapons of war, which is we call some of these, from 18 to 21. That age was recently reduced in Texas, and that's why an 18-year-old was able to buy that gun. Restricted access to ghost guns. Thank you, Mayor Breed, for being a leader in the country. Outlawing high-capacity magazines. Why do they need so many rounds in a magazine? Outlawing that. Banning bump stock sales for civilian use. Bump stock. And then cracking down on gun trafficking.
Pelosi says next week they'll be taking up legislation for red flag laws that would allow authorities to remove guns from people deemed a threat to themselves or others. Nearly 20 states have red flag laws. Pelosi's also calling on the Senate to pass H.R. 8, a bipartisan bill that would toughen background checks for gun purchases. The Senate, though, is unlikely to take up any of those bills. The measure provides Democrat lawmakers a marker to show voters their efforts to curb mass shootings this election year. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia now controls 1/5 of Ukraine. Luhansk's governor says Russia controls 80% of Severodonetsk as it's come under heavy Russian bombardment. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is defending its new $700 million package of military aid for Ukraine. It includes long-range rocket systems to help the nation defend itself against Russian attacks. Russia's blasted the military support as an escalation that could widen the war. Pacifica's Christopher Martinez has more.
President Joe Biden formally announced a new $700 million military aid package. Russia has blasted the move. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov calls it deliberately pouring oil on the fire, saying the U.S., in his words, is obviously holding to the line that it will fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. But Secretary of State Tony Blinken dismisses Russian complaints that the weapons are an escalation.
It's Russia that is attacking Ukraine, not the other way around. Simply put, the best way to avoid escalation is for Russia to stop the aggression and the war that it started.
He says the Western position was clear even before Putin invaded, and Putin should have seen it coming.
There was no hiding the ball. We've been extremely clear about this from day one, with President Biden communicating that directly to President Putin. So we have done exactly what we said we would do.
Blinken was joined at the news conference by Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, the head of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The military alliance is considering applications from neutral Finland and Sweden to become members.
President Putin wanted less NATO. He is getting more NATO, more troops, and more NATO members.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
The United Nations says Yemen's warring parties have agreed to renew a nationwide truce for another 2 months. The announcement is a glimmer of hope for the Arab world's most impoverished country, plagued by 8 years of civil war that's been called the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Head of the World Health Organization warns the pandemic is far from over. Dr. Tedros Adhanom cautions while global COVID-19 infections are down, they're on the rise in several areas.
We do see concerning trends in several regions. Reported cases and deaths are increasing in the Americas, while deaths are also increasing in the Western Pacific region and in Africa.
The WHO also says the coronavirus outbreak in North Korea is getting worse, not better. The Biden administration says it will forgive all remaining federal student debt for former students of the for-profit Corinthian Colleges chain. Under the new action, anyone attended the chain from 1995 to its collapse in 2015 will get their federal student debt automatically canceled. The action will erase $5.8 billion in debt for more than 560,000 borrowers. It's the largest loan discharge in education department history. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.